In May 1990, Canada signed the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. The convention aims to ensure rights for all children.
Now 195 countries have ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So that's every country in the world except the United States.
Countries signed on to commit themselves to improving the situation of children and young people. Canada has since ratified a coalition that works to achieve full implementation of the articles set forth by the Convention in Canada and internationally. The 10 Steps for Children in Canada is the Government of Canada's action plan in response to the Convention. These steps include ensuring equitable treatment for Indigenous children and other minority groups, considering the best interests of the child and views of the child in all decisions, informing children about their rights and train the adults who work with them, providing access to affordable quality childcare, and making the youth criminal justice system consistent with the Convention. However, despite Canada's ratification of the Convention, the country continues to disregard certain areas of children's rights.
I'm not sure it's implemented all that well, to be perfectly honest. I think a lot of people have the thought that children don't necessarily need to be heard, that they need to wait till they're older and that have different opinions, more adult-oriented opinions. But I think it's important that we take a look at things like the Convention because it is a legal document.
Many share the view that Canada does well in the area of children's rights in comparison to other countries. Take for instance India, a country that signed the Convention 2 years after Canada. Although India has defined laws that outline the government's obligations toward ensuring children's rights, these laws and rights are improperly implemented because of high poverty rates. The country is working on amending its own Child Labor Prohibition Act by allowing children under 14 to work in their family businesses. By consequence, children are more likely to be exploited and deprived of formal education.
Welfare economics philosopher Amartya Sen argues that in a just society, people have social opportunities, protective security, and freedom of choice. From this perspective, something to consider is whether these freedoms are extended to children in Canadian society. But based on the country's current situation, the answer is no. Canada's situation may be different from that of India's, but it is far from being perfect.
In our research, we've found that children in every province and territory across Canada, children at all income levels, children of all social strata are faced with issues, and they're faced with different issues because each child is unique.
According to a report from Campaign 2000 last fall, there has been little progress in reducing poverty among Canadian children and their families, despite a commitment from members of Parliament to have resolved the issue by the year 2000. Poverty is a big reason behind the fact that Canada has over 40,000 homeless youth. Just in Toronto alone, 28% of homeless people are under the age of 18. It's estimated that 10,000 youths will find themselves living on the street every year, and every night there are 6,000 youths seeking a safe place to be sheltered. 14% of Canadian children aged 4 to 17 experience mental disorders. That's over 800,000 children. But fewer than 25% receive specialized treatment services. Due to lack of research regarding the effectiveness of early child and youth-directed development programs, children's mental health hasn't been given the public policy attention it deserves.
At a minimum, 70% of mental health issues start in childhood and adolescence. So if you respect the need for children to have the kinds of resources that are necessary to mitigate those issues, then the long-term impact on society will be very positive.
Children can experience other issues that stem from lack of mental health treatments, including confusion or lack of education about sexual orientation, as well as loss of identity. But our government is currently not doing everything it can to address these issues.
Today, schools in Canada are not democratic institutions, but rather hierarchical in the sense that the teachers, the authoritative figures, are in charge of deciding what and how the children are going to learn. Systematically, children do not have a say in the curriculum that is imposed on them. Alternatively, implementing democratic education in primary schools would encourage a realization in pupils that they are valued as people and that they have a positive role to play in creating a caring community within the school. Montessori schools can be characterized as an example of a democratic learning system. Montessori education teaches children how to acknowledge and take advantage of highly perceptive stages. It emphasizes the importance of independence and freedom within limits of a child. In terms of the education system for First Nations children in Canada, parents fear that their children fail to develop a positive sense of identity as a result of insufficient curricula. This is because the federal government claims that the Human Rights Act applies only to the delivery of government services, but do not determine what services can be provided. How can we come up with a solution to this? As Pearson notes, we can't make decisions for children without having the children involved. One way of changing the current situation would be to start educating children about their rights. This could result in several positive changes. By educating children about their rights, children's rights activists say that Canada would become an inclusionary society in which children are allowed to be involved in decision-making processes about matters that affect them. What can we do then to create a better situation for children in Canada? Listen to them. And what exactly do children have to say? It is important to consider all of their opinions.
Because it doesn't really matter where the child comes from or what the background is. The potential's always there. You know, every child is a new chance.